And we're immediately jumping on board what's not so much a train as a low-flying plane. Who doesn't want to try and get into the cab of a high-speed train? Artyom? Hello.
Hello.
Okay, I'm on board. That means we can go.
Let's go.
Artyom Grigoryan, a first-class engineer, has worked on railroads for a quarter of a century, and he's been at the helm of a high-speed train for 5 years.
Here we go. We send power to the traction motors, and the train accelerates.
What do you mean accelerates? We're going, what, 5 miles per hour right now?
Yeah, 5, because we're still in the depot territory. But generally, this train travels at a speed of 100 miles per hour.
And that's with a weight of how much?
This train weighs 380 tons.
This weighty train called the Swallow constantly needs 3 kilovolts of direct current to move. That's the equivalent of about 2,000 AA batteries. All this powers the electric motors, each of which is responsible for one wheel set and drives it with a capacity of 370 kilowatts.
That comes to more than 3.5 thousand horses, a few herds.
Not a bad herd that you've got, and you lead it.
That's right.
Listen, well, our program is called Take the Wheel, so I would really like to take your place and take the wheel.
Are you serious?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, for those who, like me, prepared for the usual way our program works, where I ask and then steer, you're about to be disappointed.
You're only in the cab because there aren't any passengers. If there were passengers, then you wouldn't be allowed in here at all. And you can't steer because such a technique requires a male's touch. Women can't do this.
Best not to say that.
No?
No, we're in the 21st century.
Yes. Well, in fact, that's the way it is. It's written down.
It is. Here's the government decree from the year 2000, and here there are 456 occupations listed that are prohibited from using female labor. In my journalistic career, however, I have violated this regulation many, many, many times. But among all forms of transport, the most regulated is the railway. It includes more than 20 non-female professions, and here you have it. Under the points 368 to 374, the female sex is prohibited from being an engineer of any kind. So what do? We decided to start with the basics. Near Kradova, a Moscow suburb, there's a bustling train platform. But it's strange, there's nothing but children's faces all around. Here, the feeling that machines from the past really do exist sticks with you, and everyone here is ready for its arrival. The name of the station is also in the spirit of a completely different time. No, there haven't been any pioneers, the Russian version of scouts, for a long time, and yet the station, built by school children near Moscow back in 1936, not only exists, it operates. Trains arrive here daily, right, Ivan?
Not only do they arrive, they also depart from here every day.
You and I are now walking by the train, and I see there are only children here.
Yes, all the responsibilities that are found here, all these duties are performed by children.
Listen, well, if children are learning here, then can I try to control the locomotive with my own hands?
Yes, let's go.
So you're inviting me into the cab?
Yes, of course you can.
By the way, we're headed for Youth. The Youth train station, that is. But unlike the carriages of big-name company trains, where it's very comfortable, in this locomotive, it's so loud in here. The noise is deafening. How awful! To get into the cab, you literally have to squeeze through the engine compartment. So I'm still not on the train, and it's not much better in the cab.
Here is the driver's compartment. This is my spot. You'll have to ride standing.
Standing?
Yes, standing.
Look, I didn't know it would be this crowded in here. Is this just due to the fact that it's a small locomotive for children? I mean, everything's smaller here.
Yes, well, no, it's not for children. This isn't specifically a children's diesel locomotive, it's simply a narrow gauge one. It has a 1D12 12-cylinder V engine, and it produces 300 horsepower.
But the locomotive on the children's railroad is quite grown up. This narrow gauge diesel locomotive was invented in 1955 for the timber and peat industry, and it weighs an impressive 37 tons. And the engine?
That is, on the main railways, the track width is 60 inches. Here, it's only 33 inches.
It seems like not all that much, but the engine power is enough for a 100-ton train. Its maximum speed is 30 miles per hour, but now the limit on the Children's Railroad is half that. Almost 300 locomotives like this one were produced in just 3 years, and this one was one of the first.
It was built in '56.
Seriously? So that means it went into service here almost immediately after steam locomotives were abandoned, right? That is, this is almost the first diesel locomotive?
Yes.
Diesel locomotives were a sort of transitional stage between steam and electric. Inside, they have a diesel engine that rotates the crankshaft of a traction generator, and that powers the electric motors. In turn, they transmit the electricity to the driving wheels through a gear transmission, and the locomotive's brakes are pneumatic.
Right now, we're stopped at the school platform. The schedule dictates that this stop lasts for only 1 minute.
Ivan is 27 years old, and he's the instructor. He's already an independent engineer on the railroad. Now his task is to educate the younger generation. Our other driver, Nikita, is only 14, and his assistant, Natasha, 15 years old. That's why here, just as on regular trains, everything is strictly regulated, and signs like this aren't really needed. The children know the rules in and out, as my cameraman found out.
Give it another ring. Not allowed.
Honestly, I haven't seen such rule-abiding children for a long time. The long journey along the route is actually quite short. The total length of the rail is about 2.5 miles long. After about 15 minutes, we arrive at Youth, and Youth is all around us. Here, even Lenin is young, and we've got everything ahead of us. Actually, no, we're now at the end of everything.
We'll take care of that now. In order for us to get around the train, we first have to go in that direction, and then we will come back in this direction again, hook up to the train, and go.
So you're leaving now?
Yes.
But then you'll come back?
Yes, I'll be back.
Okay. Here's the whole trick. To travel the opposite direction, you need to move the lead car. The locomotive has 2 cabs, one in front and one in back. We go around the train along a second track, and then we need to hook up to the cars from the other side. And believe it or not, I'll be doing that.
You sit in the engineer's chair.
Okay.
Grab the reversing handle, insert it into the reversing shaft. Here.
Oh.
I'll help you.
Insert it?
So, like this. And we set it so the car will move forward. But we are essentially in park now, so we need to release the brakes.
So, like this. All the way.
Press 100, yes. Let go, all the way.
So, well, the pressure drops?
That's enough, okay. Click on the buffer, feel the brakes. The brake pressure dropped, that's it. Now we take the controller and put it into position. Position 1, 2, one more, go ahead.
Whoa. We start moving towards the other cars, and they're filled with passengers. To be honest, even at this speed, it's difficult. Slowly, slowly, slowly. Listen, our approach is imminent now.
It's okay, this is how it works.
I really want to brake, but we shouldn't still?
No need.
Yes.
You see the stop signal. We've stopped, we blow 3 short whistles, that's it. We successfully connected to the train. Now we will prepare for departure.
And that means you'll ride in the other cab this time?
Yes.
All in all, it's not so difficult. Let's head back. No, trains are not toys for children. They all approach this experience very seriously. Okay, after squeezing past 30 feet of engine like this, we can get on our way.
Yes, our engine is everything's very tight, everything's very cramped, but it's cozy.
Cozy?
Yeah.
There are 25 children's railways operating in Russia, on which 19,000 young people are trained like this. Subsequently, this gives an advantage when entering railway technical schools and universities, but imagine working like this as a child for several years, and even in the summer. You mean Nikita at 14 is allowed to, but I'm not?
He can do it for one simple reason.
Yes?
He's already gone through training.
How can I get around this reinforced concrete rule of the railways? Volgograd may be known for the Motherland Calls monument, but few people know that this city is also the birthplace of an extremely unconventional railway. On November 5th, 1984, the city of Volgograd got its own underground track. But it's very unusual. This is not your typical metro. It's called a metro tram. And why? Well, see for yourself. A real tram car has arrived at the platform. Well, shall we try to jump on the outgoing tram? How it happened was in the 60s, Stalingrad, what Volgograd used to be called, I'm here. Made it. Planned to build a metro, but by the standards of that time, only a city with a population over 1 million could have a metro, and there were only 800,000 inhabitants, so this strange hybrid was born. It's convenient. No traffic jams, not even during rush hour. It's just that we were just underground and then bam, now we've broken out onto the street. Well, if you're referring to the fact that this is a rare form of transport, yes, and I think it's a great gift for the city. Well, the passengers like it, but our task is to understand how to drive this tram, so let's go to the cab. Yep, we're lucky.
Hello.
Can I come in?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
I'll join you. Ooh. Nikolai Bontsev is our driver. His father built the Volgograd Metro tram, and as a child, he dreamed of becoming a tram driver, and he did. Moreover, a high-speed one.
Within the limits of city traffic, we're not allowed to go more than 37 miles per hour. But the work requires maximum concentration because there are around 100 passengers sitting behind us, and we are responsible for each and every one of them.
In general, the high-speed tram, or C-train, accounts for almost a fourth of the local electric transport traffic. It's 10 miles long and transports 136,000 people daily, who can both travel around and admire the view at the same time.
Here, by the way, is Mamayev Kurgan. Yes, your station.
Oh. But there's also a main difference between the Volgograd Expressway and all other trams, and that difference is looming ahead of us. A bit of an unusual feeling.
Yes.
Listen, this looks like something out of a science fiction film.
Now the fun begins. Yes. Yes, we...
Like when spaceships are rushing forward through a portal.
Yeah.
It's like that. Actually, the tunnel itself here is also extraordinary. Because the old trams only had doors on one side, on the right, the exit and the entrance from the tunnel were separated. When looked at like this, the Metro tram design resembles a DNA molecule, but the paths do not intersect. The entrance is actually below the exit level. Our tram literally dives into this black hole.
One tunnel is above and the other below, and we don't actually see it with our eyes. Here we are. We've hit 37 miles per hour, but this isn't its limit. The tram can go faster. But we have a station coming up ahead, so we're not going to speed up too much now.
Island-type stations are a classic feature of Russian metros, but of course, there's no third rail like in the metro. Here, there's an overhead wire. True, it's lower than on the surface. Because of this, the pantograph is constrained by the diameter of the tunnel.
Above ground, it unfolds to contact the wire. Then here it works in a folded position.
For the duration of the underground portion, the lights turn on in the tram's cabin, but in the cab, it's pitch dark. For us TV people, it's terrible for filming, but these are the prerequisites for filming in here.
Well, when it's necessary, we can turn on...
Oh, that's much better. But on the other hand, right away, the tunnel is gone.
Now we just see our reflections. Yeah, in the glass. Therefore, for these purposes, we always turn off the lights in here.
The only light here is the one at the end of the tunnel. We're going back up above ground. The world's now blindingly bright.
Yes. Yeah, that's the biggest nuisance with the tunnels. Diving up and down in them, your eyes don't have time to adjust. Many drivers lose their eyesight exactly.
Because of the shock?
Because of the shock, yes.
I've already realized that trams deceive you and make you think they're simple, and a hybrid, perhaps doubly so. But still, if I'm here, well, will you let me take the wheel, please, the trams?
No, I can't do that. But let's go to the depot. And once we get to the depot, there you can drive around a bit on a small section.
These domestic beauties entered into service in Volgograd quite recently, in 2018. Despite the impressive dimensions and serious weight of the train, small but powerful asynchronous traction motors, 4 of them, churn out 50 kilowatts of power each. That is 272 horses in total for one train, and I'm dying of anticipation.
All right, Alexandra, this is the tram control panel here. This is an electrical installation, yes, with a voltage of up to 1,000 volts. Here, the voltage in our contact network is 600 volts. Grounding is carried out through the rail. That's why we're between a positive and a negative, so to speak, in a suspended state.
But right now, we're drained. To gather voltage from the contact network, you need to unfold the pantograph. Oh.
That's it, it's on.
But there's another step without which, even connected to electricity, the tram won't budge.
For this, you have, under your left foot, a pedal. And you have to press it down.
Go ahead and press it.
Yes, press it. That's it, until it clicks. This is called the vigilance pedal and has to remain pressed down the entire time the driver is in the cab. If you release it while driving, the emergency brake will be applied. Essentially, this pedal is designed so that the carriage can know that the driver is awake.
To wake up the tram, we turn on the toggle switch of the machine.
Yes, and the second one, there.
There. All 4 propulsion systems of our train have been activated, and all that's left is to start the main traction motors and set the acceleration position with this switch. We've got neutral, forward, and reverse. Forward.
A forward direction. We close the doors.
We close the doors and monitor them.
Monitor them. They're all closed now.
Everything is closed.
Shift into the H1 position. Here we go, H1. The car is starting to pick up speed.
Listen, well, first...
Yes, you can try H2.
Oh.
And now we shift down.
To neutral?
Yes, we roll forward.
We're still in neutral. Yeah, the inertia is enough.
We're at about 10 miles per hour. And now T1, braking. Oop, that was abrupt. That's good. This is T6. That's it. And our carriage...
That is, I just...
stops again.
Brake too abruptly?
It was a rough stop, yes.
Meaning,
well,
passengers would not have appreciated that at all.
No, some would have even fallen. So let's now shift into reverse.
All right.
A bell rings then, and we again shift to H1 just the same.
So this, yes, you want to shift back.
No, you need to move to H1. That's it, and we begin to move backwards.
Intuitively, you're drawn to push the controller in the direction of travel, like a reverse gear on a car. But no, the controller is not so much a gear shifter as it is a gas pedal. And yes, the tram can easily build up speed in reverse.
You can move the controller into neutral.
Neutral already?
Yes, we'll roll like this.
And we start to slow down.
Yes, we're starting to slow down. T1 is enough. And that's it.
By the way, whenever the tram is braking, it goes from a power consumption mode into the mode of a power generator. The traction motors begin to send electricity back to the grid. So the phrase, don't slow down, this is definitely not for tram drivers.
Yes.
Better to slow down. All joking aside, the distance that I drove was laughable, only about 65 feet in a straight line. Maybe we can keep going a bit farther?
No, Alexandra, you know there's a switch coming up ahead of us, so no.
That's the most interesting part.
It is the most interesting, I agree.
How do trams turn?
Yes, I agree, but not this time. That's the way it is.
But...
we shift into the first position. We start moving.
Yes, Nikolai actually gave in under my pressure, but I need to be beyond composed for this.
A speed of 10.
To 10.
Okay, that's enough. You can go to the end.
Making a mistake on the switch can lead to derailment.
Slow down.
Yes, okay.
First position. We're going to slow down to 3.
It's falling.
Right, good, that's it. Let go, shift to neutral.
We're in neutral. I waited a little too long, 2 miles per
That's nothing to
hour.
worry about.
The switch. This is the most important spot. How trams turn. We're about to find out. If you look at the train carefully, it's easy to understand. In addition to the limiting flange on one side of the wheel, the working surface of the wheels is beveled. The diameter of the outer and inner parts differ by a few millimeters, and that tiny difference plays a huge role. A turn is a change in radius. The path inside will be shorter than the path outside, and moving by inertia, the coupled wheelbase shifts relative to the rail away from the turn, outside becoming a larger diameter and inside a smaller one. So by beveling the wheels, trains and trams can change their radius and are able to make turns. Geometry.
You feel that trembling, rattling? Yes, exactly.
That's it getting up on them.
Yes.
This is a dangerous moment.
And at this speed, we overcome the switch.
So we won't fly off?
We will not fly off. You can add more.
The cab is hanging over.
More.
It feels like we already left the tracks.
H1, yes. Yes, like that, like that, like that. Yes, 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 that's enough.
Oh, wow. So now,
T1, brake.
slowing down, done.
That's it.
Wow. Now seriously, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And now I'll clean the car a little.
Now Sasha definitely steered the tram because we even entered a turn. By the way, few people know this, but the first subway was run on steam. And steam locomotives ran on the London Underground too. They ran on some lines for almost 100 years, right up until 1961. A P36 steam locomotive. It's also called the General, well, because of its bright coloring. See how it resembles a general's trousers with stripes? Unfortunately, sometime back in '56, not even its coloring could save this general from retirement. This became the last steam locomotive in the Soviet Union, but today, we're gonna take a ride on it. Yes?
Let's go.
Alexander Razovayev has been driving this dinosaur of the railways for only 2 years now. Before that, he was a driver of modern electric locomotives. Well, if there are steam locomotives, then engineers must also exist to drive them. It's hard to believe, but the Podmoskovnaya depot is active, or as they say, there are 9 hot steam engines here, the oldest of which was produced in 1897, and all of them, not only the General, are almost always ready.
The locomotive is constantly working. We don't extinguish it.
That is, you say it's always steamed up?
Always steamed up. They're given attention around the clock.
The General's dimensions are impressive. Its weight is more than 133 tons, but a steam engine with a capacity of almost 3,000 horses is capable of accelerating it to a speed of 78 miles per hour and pulling a train 9 times its own weight, 1,500 tons. It carries a fuel stock of 25 tons of coal, of course.
That'll last us about 300 miles.
So you can't even get to St. Petersburg. You'd have to stop for more coal somewhere.
Plus, the road to St. Pete's is pretty flat. Add in some hills or mountains, and it'd be even less. And it depends on the train itself, too.
Our stoker, Konstantin, has a very fitting last name, Chugunkin. It's very close to the Russian word for cast iron, which is what the railway used to be called. Who, if not him, should work here?
Well, here's a cross-section of a steamer.
Amazing. And this, by the way, is our cab?
That's the cab.
Okay.
The furnace is shown in red, where hot gases pass through the cylindrical part of the boiler. The blue is water.
Which is heated.
It's heated up and evaporates.
To what temperature?
Up to a temperature of about 360 degrees.
Amazing. That is way above the boiling point of water.
Yes, the water turns into steam and pressure builds up as the volume expands. The steam supply is created, and that's the area indicated in yellow.
Here they are.
And when the regulator is opened, steam goes through the steam pipes to the valves.
Very important.
The piston valves then distribute the steam into the right and left cavity of the cylinder. At the same time, the steam pushes the piston with the help.
And that sets in motion?
Yes. With the help of a piston rolling pin, the pressure is transmitted through the piston drawbar to the wheels, and there it turns into a rotary movement, and that makes the locomotive move.
Listen, well, it seems so simple. Well, it's ingeniously simple.
It's a simple machine, and that's what makes it reliable, and why they've survived to this day.
It's funny, but before the invention of the first steam locomotive in 1801, the automobile was invented. The first self-propelled steam vehicle was made by Nicholas Joseph Cugnot in 1769. There's only one danger with this type of energy: its explosiveness. Factories, steamships, and of course, trains, and more trains exploded.
The locomotive's whole boiler can explode.
Seriously? If you don't keep track of the water?
Yes, water is the main thing. The furnace can go out, but there must be water. It's like if you leave a tea kettle on the stove. The water boils away, but the kettle's still really hot. If you add water in there, what happens? A sudden burst of steam. It's the same here, and the boiler just takes off.
That's why in order not to expose the furnace, the steam locomotive needs 2 times more water than coal, 50 tons. Speaking of coal, this is exactly what's been reluctantly, entrusted to me. That weighs about 80 pounds if I'm not mistaken. Wow, that's real heat. What's the temperature in there now?
Up to 3,600 degrees.
3,600 degrees?
Nearly. That's if it's red hot at its limit.
Well, this is what I imagine hell is like. And this mouth is insatiable. It swallows mountains of coal. And this is not an easy job, in fact. It's not like this is light activated charcoal you've got here.
To activate it, you need to throw it in there.
Is this an inside joke? Got any more? And 3 shovels later, there's the whistle. We are finally leaving. Cool. And the engineer, see, almost hangs out of the cab. You've got a small window here, but you can hardly see anything out of it because of the boiler.
Yes, it has. It's easier to lean out the window.
goodness, that's loud. And it's like that all the time?
Yeah, the whole time. It's nice in summer, but in winter we wear glasses, scarves, warm hats, warm jackets, and that's how we work.
At what speed?
62 miles per hour.
Cool. The top half of your body is outside practically.
Well, sometimes you have to lean out almost all the way.
It's a good thing, then, that steam locomotive races take place in August. Yes, restored steam locomotives have been competing on a large experimental ring in Sherbinka near Moscow since 2018. And at this speed, just look. You'd never know that some of these trains are more than a century old.
The engineer is steering, and the assistant makes it so that
An assistant meaning the stoker.
the pressure in the boiler is at its
Crazy.
maximum. So that he stood there right here, the whole thing's shaking, and he just adds some more, and it just whoosh, like a rocket.
Seriously?
You open this, and it's a wall of fire, and the heat is so intense that you can't bend over it. You could set your eyelashes and eyebrows on fire.
What it feels like to be in these few square feet for mile after mile and for hours on end next to the fiery heart of this iron monster is hard for me to imagine.
Go for it.
Well, if I can reach it. Cool. That was a dream come true just now. See how little a girl needs to be happy? Wow. We head on back.
The path is clear. 54 yards.
And from the outside, it looks like we're rewinding, returning to its beginnings, back to the past.
Yep, that's it.
That's it? Our time traveling is over now?
It's over.
Thank you very much.
And thank
but
you.
does it count as steering if I just shoveled in the coal?
Of course.
Really?
You participated in the process.
There's a Russian expression, a man steamer, thanks to the poet Mayakovsky. But let me rephrase that to a man steam locomotive. These are all those people who deserve the utmost respect because they drive trains. Whether it's a 14-year-old engineer or an engineer of twice that age, they're all incredibly focused on their job, and it turns out that where there is nothing to steer, steering is the most difficult thing to do.